Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Ask Shane. So, following on from last week's video, 5 ways to clear and purify your energy. Those of you that watched that video, I want to thank all of you that have commented and sent me messages and some emails as well. I really want to thank you for that. One of the things that we shared within that video was I was talking about the door cleanse. Okay, so within this last week, wonderful client like I work with, I worked with within a face-to-face consultation. I was advising her she'd gone through a fair bit of trauma within her environment, also gone through a fair bit of trauma in the environment around where she lives within her home. And one of the things that I suggested was the door cleanse. Okay, those of you that are not sure that what I'm sharing or talking about is, I will put a link within this video to that previous video, and you'll be able to catch the door cleanse. Okay, so I said to her about the door cleanse, and she said to me, "So Shane, the question I have for you is, what are these, times of power? What are they? You talk about, coming into the dark part of the year where everything's kind of falling away. Nature, the leaves are falling off the trees, all the dead wood's falling away. And I talk about that being a kind of a gateway. An optimum time to work with those things that are falling away, those things that are clearing away, brushing away, so to speak." She said, so how does this work? What is magic? What are spells? And how does this work? And I thought, actually, that is a very profound question. And that is a question absolutely without a shadow of a doubt that needs exploring. So, let's look at the fundamentals to this. But I want to start with the gateways, okay, what I call the gateways, and I'm going to also share with you my background and where all this is kind of knitting together. So let's talk about the gateways, okay. I believe there's gateways within time that hold significant kind of, if you like, natural energies, almost, if you want to use the word power, that we can absolutely kind of tap in and begin to work with, within the ebbs and flows, within the natural cycles. That's what we're talking about, is flow, okay. And I love flow. Flow is very important to me in the way that I live and the way that I work. And there's a cycle to those flows, okay. So one of the things that a long time ago started for me was, have you ever kind of gazed at the moon, and just allowed your mind to wander? I have done that often, especially on those nights that I'm up on a hillside, normally alone, just myself and my bivvy bag and my bike. Kind of been greeted many a night by an incredible full moon. And sometimes, going back, I'm going to be more conscious of this going forwards. I've kind of gone out on a trip not knowing where the moon is within its natural cycle, and find myself on a hilltop only to discover it's actually a full moon. For a long time, I've really sensed its influence, its pull. It's magic. Let's face it, if we kind of look at this, we're around about 60% water, are we not? The way that I see this, if the moon can pull the tides, and it can pull the oceans, and it can pull the seas, then it must affect us. Okay, so we're looking at that from a almost scientific perspective. With 60% water, if the moon can pull the oceans and the seas, the tides, then it must affect us. Okay. I have a good friend who is a police officer, and he would say that often that during and around the full moon, the crime rates would go up. They would just almost spike. They would end up putting more officers on the street at a time when there were more officers to put on the streets. Okay, things have changed so much. The other thing to consider here, okay, so all the clues are starting to come together. Have you ever wondered about the word lunatic? Lunatic. Where does that come from? The clues are there. I believe that the moon has such a powerful influence on our lives. So if you kind of look at this from the perspective of being a practitioner of magic and those that follow a magical path, the timing of your rituals, the timing of your spells with the moon phases, okay, is like swimming with the current. Okay, so you swim with it. So the natural ebb and flow, you work with that natural ebb and flow. It's like swimming with the current, aligning with those natural ebbs and flows of nature. And nature is such a powerful force. Spells and rituals, but if we look at kind of spells, that's what the question was. Spells cast at the appropriate time will obtain the added strength within your workings. Okay, as it's always easier to go with the flow than against it. And we'll explain a little bit more about that as we go forwards. The key is always to work with nature, never against it. It's about aligning and attuning to those ebbs and flows, like spring, summer, winter, new and full moon, waxing and waning moon. We're going to share more about them, but these are gateways. Okay, it's cycles, and I think for a long time I've naturally felt the ebb and flow of those cycles. And why do I love being outside? Because I tune myself to the rhythm of nature. That's what we're talking about here, is the natural rhythm of nature. And I don't want to separate myself from it. I want to align myself to it, which is why I do some of the work that I do at the times that I do, i.e. my live events on Samhain, on Yule, Easter, summer solstice, because to me these are doorways and gateways, and every one of them offers a unique energy, okay, a unique signature, a unique energy. But before we explain the magical phases of the moon and the natural cycles, let's take a look at what, from my perspective, what magic and spells are. Okay, so I thought, I'm intrigued by this. Let's go and have a look in the dictionary, right? So let's just kind of ask the dictionary what a spell is, okay? So from the dictionary, which is always interesting to see, the definition of word spell: a spell is a series of words that have magical powers. If you're under a spell, then what you do is out of your control. Remember, this is the dictionary, okay? It's not fact. Is out of your control. Your thoughts and actions are dictated by the spell. Spell can refer to the magic words you say, or it can describe being under the influence of those words. Now, here's the important point, is that I think there's actual literal fact to that, i.e. that words hold power. Okay, words hold power. I know that from all the consulting I've done for all the years that I've done it, is that words hold power. And I spoke about this before, that words are alive, they hold power. Spirit, the innate, use words in a very powerful way to deliver the messages they do. Okay, words are alive, they do have power. And as a consultant, there is a huge responsibility to the way that you direct those words, with your tone, your pitch, your mannerisms, the way that it's said, the way that it's delivered, the way that it's given, okay, and how it's enforced and reinforced, okay. there's such a responsibility to that. So words, we understand, hold power. So that's what a spell is. You think about, when we first go to school, one of the things that we do is we learn to spell. Okay, and why is it that there's this magical association to spells? Okay, the clue is there within the word. It's the power of words and used in a certain way. Okay, so that's how I see it. Um, you know, for me, this started a very long time ago. And in a way, it started after coming back from Scotland and the experiences I was having within Scotland, the dreaming of these strange stones and these kind of squiggly writings and kind of murals embedded and inscribed within to the stones, and then later, I found out they were rune stones. So coming back from Scotland and discovering those runes, I naturally started to explore the path of earth magic and come across something called the weird. Okay, and the weird is spelt. See, it's all there, isn't it? It's spelled Wyrd. Okay, the weird, which is an Anglo-Saxon noun. Weird meaning. Okay, the meaning is to become. Okay, is to become. Weird literally means that which has turned or which that has become. Okay, it carries the idea of turned into. Okay, so in a way, there's an association straight away. There's a magical element, and the way that I see the weird, it's the life force, it's the energy, and that's what we're doing. Is we're kind of working with that natural life force, that ebb and that flow, and we're kind of harnessing it. We're allowing ourselves to align to it. We're not becoming separate from it, we're becoming one with it, which is why I think I'm in a position now, after all these years, 26, 27 years of walking the path that I've walked, that now I can absolutely understand fully. Going back, I wasn't grasping nowhere near to what I have grasped today. And there's more of a grounding in it. I understand the science behind it, and also the fact that you have to go through your healing journey. You have to kind of grow and evolve. So it's this sense of aligning and harnessing that force, that energy that naturally is in huge abundance around us, and depending on its ebb and flow, what we can direct it and how we can direct it. Okay, so it carries the idea of turned into. Okay, weird is an old English noun, and the interesting thing, it's known as a feminine noun. Okay, that I find interesting. Life force, the giver of life, and it's a feminine noun. The clues are there, yeah. To become. And weird is the ancestor of the modern weird, as in Wieerd, the modern weird, which is, we all know what weird means. It means odd or unusual. And also it carries this kind of connotation to the supernatural, as in Shakespeare's Weird Sisters, the trio of witches in the Macbeth story, the original Weird Sisters, which, if you kind of go underneath that, were of course what was known as the Three Norns, the Norse goddesses of destiny, and the stories say that they spent most of the time spinning the threads of life, okay, deciding the fate of all living beings. So I love these stories and mythologies. So they spent most of their time spinning the threads of life, sitting at the foot and the root of the tree of life, okay, and to weave the faith and fate of every living being into a web or a thread. Very powerful stories. And from that, I went on to read The Way of the Weird by Brian Bates. Incredible story. If you haven't read it, I absolutely encourage everybody to read it. It's really, really kind of gripping story, and I was gripped. And it was about a Saxon runic shaman named Wolf. Okay, and from that, okay, so tapping into the weird, which is this life force energy that apparently the three norns sit at the tree of life, and they're weaving and intervening and weaving the fate of humanity and dreaming it into being. Very powerful story. From that, I went on to discover the druidic path, okay, and I was initiated into the order of bards, ovates, and druids. That was many years ago, and I spent many years working and studying within the order. And at the time, the order had the order of bards, okay, which were the storytellers. And what they were doing through story and through poems and through songs, they would carry the teachings. Okay, so they were the bards. And then you had the ovates, okay, and then you have the druids. And the druids were the peacekeepers, the early lawmakers actually within these lands, but they were peacekeepers. And the wise sages, they were the leaders. And then you had the ovates. Now, for me, and I'm going to get into what an ovate is. For me, I was most happiest within the ovatic grove. Now, in the words of the order, the ovate explores the roots of things, which absolutely makes sense to me. That's a lot of what I'm about. Getting to the bottom of things. That's what I do within consultations. So explores the roots of things, seeking the philosophy, and which really underpins druidry and in a way life itself. The questions that the ovate is really kind of interested in is what happens to the human soul and psyche after death. That is so the journey that I've taken in this life. Who or what are the spirits of nature? How do we relate to them? The ovate seeks answers to such questions through understanding the natural cycles of time and the processes of birth, growth, life, death, and decay, both on a smaller scale by studying plants, animals, and on a larger scale by studying science and cosmology. Okay, the ovate primarily is a seer, combining mental and spiritual discipline with the intuitive gifts of the bard, seeking through what's called the Arwen, which is probably similar to the weird, the life force energy, inspired vision to understand the flow of events, past, present, and future. The ovate skill is divination, seen in its literal sense as communication with the divine. For me, the ovate is linked closely in a way to traditional witchcraft, which I think at that time ovates were breaking away from the druidic constructs, the orders, and they were going kind of alone. They were getting naturally, they were ovatic by nature, and they were feeling the pull of solitude rather than within a group. And I absolutely completely understand that, and I get that. So for me, naturally the ovatic path just sat very, very firmly within my heart. It was natural, and I spent many years, and then in a way I broke away. It was that solitary journey, then adventuring and the holistic mediumship, all of it really bolting together. And I think after all these years, I found it again. and I've kind of, in a way, I feel like I've gone home. Um, and all after some really inspirational and beautiful conversations with a dear friend, who is one serious herbal witch. And I think I mentioned her last time, who told me and compared, said that James Bond in a way is a pussy compared to Odin. And I remember at the time, kind of spitting out my tea, but there was this realness, this humour, and yet this reverence to all of what's been done. Um, you know those conversations that I've had with her, and many of them actually through email, all of them through email, have ignited the feeling of returning back to my roots. I've remembered so much, and for that I'm really grateful for. And I'm also wondering, was it anything to do with last autumn, and the stranger with dark raven hair that was standing at my door? Um, Again, there's another video on that called the Mark of the Witch. Okay. Um, After all these years of growing, and working and feeling for the magical qualities of what I would call the days of power, I think I am, I'm more grounded. I have a more understanding of how all of this seems to fit together, how it all seems to work. And also I feel ready, I'm standing tall enough to walk the path, I think, of those before me. Um, I was writing a blog about this, and I was woken up last night. Actually, I was woken up at 2:55 a.m. with some really incredible, strange dreams. We've come from a full moon, and it was the hunter's moon. Within my dreams, I was being hunted. Okay, and in a way, I kind of really do understand that it wasn't an unnerving feeling, but it left a mark on me. Um, and I kind of sat there and I started to write, and I kind of went on to say, I'm sure that there are people that come into our lives that are catalysts. My dear friend and the stranger with the dark raven hair. Is it possible for people to awaken old and forgotten memories, experiences, and wisdom? I absolutely believe, and memories beyond this time. All of this for me has been stirring and simmering for many years. Just think about those words for a moment with the connection to magic. Simmering and stirring. They're very powerful words, aren't they? Simmering and stirring. They've been simmering and stirring for years. Yet it's come back with so much force, which is why I think within my dreams I was feeling I was being hunted. It's come back with force. It's come to get me. Not in a bad way, but it's come to grab hold of me. It's come back with so much force. I can't deny its presence in my life. Without a doubt, I cannot deny its presence in my life, and absolutely have an understanding of the weird and the life force and those magical ebbs and flows and the word magic. Not even if I tried, why would I? Why would I? And importantly, I don't want to now. Okay, so magic and spells. Okay, this is really, really important. Remember that old saying, be careful what you wish for. I think that's very true. There's so much force and energy and power that goes into a wish. Be careful what you wish for. I think that's very true for spells. Magic is a part of you. It's a part of who we all are. We are stardust. We come from the stars. Magic is a part of us. The one thing that I feel that why I'm saying I am ready, and it's a lifetime of growing and journeying, and we don't ever stop growing and evolving. Okay, the one thing I feel that is really needed with this is it to be given respect. Don't be fooled in thinking all you're doing is making a flippant request. Spells work, magic does happen. Be careful what we wish for. Again, the clue is in the word spell, the power of the word. I've said that, power of the word. Words do hold power. You know, a spell has a specific kind of formula. A spell can be worked in many ways. A simple pointing, I'm not going to do it on screen, but a simple pointing of the finger. And think about if any of you have seen the Practical Magic, and the little girl, you know, she gets very upset because she's been teased, and the children are chanting witch, 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 and she goes to turn and she goes to point at one of the children, and her mother stops her. You know, there's a lot of force and a lot of emotion, a lot of power, and then she goes to point. You know, that is powerful. You know, it's always kind of have in mind that, you know, what you put out comes back threefold. You know, what you put out comes back threefold. And I always say at the end of my magical workings, and to harm none. Okay, to harm none. Okay. So a spell can be worked in a simple point in the finger, which is not simple. It's generating all that emotion. To more of a complicated ritual involving tools and herbs and any variation in between. For me, I kind of like kitchen alchemy. I do prefer to always kind of keep things quite simple. It can consist of a set of spoken words, or written words, a formula, a verse, a ritual action, or even a combination of these, which, if you look at last week's video, you'll see there's ritual, there's practices, there's spells in there. But I also feel, you know, there's those natural gateways that hold flow and power. I will put a link within this video to the blog. These last few videos are going to be longer by nature. They're more of a workshop than a video. And over time, we will explore more of the days of power, as in Yule and Samhain, summer solstice, winter solstice, which is Yule. Yet for now, let's understand one of the things I mentioned earlier on is the moon, okay? So the moon phases. So you have the waxing moon, okay? The waxing moon is the moment after the new moon, building up to the full moon. Okay, so it's where it's building, it's waxing, it's growing. It's the best time to do work around growth. Okay, beginning new projects. A time of initiations are done. I was initiated into the order on a waxing moon. Time of enchantment, increase. Increase is the operative word here, just as the moon is increasing. So if you're looking for something to grow, to increase, to strengthen, to initiate, to take hold, then that's the time, the waxing moon. Okay. Attributes are invoking, beginnings, new projects, ideas, inspiration, energy, vitality, freedom, constructive magic. Okay, it's something I would call constructive magic, as success, courage, friendship. You know, you could hand fasting would be done on a waxing moon. You know, a commitment done on a waxing moon. You know, friendship bonds celebrated on a waxing moon. Luck on a waxing moon, health on a waxing moon. Okay, and then we have the full moon. Okay, so it's building and growing. Full moon. Okay, which follows from the waxing moon. Attributes on a full moon are fruition, coming to totality, manifesting, goals, nurturing. You know, so your salt baths. Lovely on a full moon. Moon bathing, okay, so there's your salt baths. Kind of passion, so honeymoon, okay, honeymoon. Passion, okay, the words and clues are all there, the story is all there. Honeymoon. Healing, strength, power, love, honeymoon again, knowledge, legal undertakings, you know, finalization, completion, money, dreams, you know, powerful time for dreaming, Prime time rituals for prophecy, illumination, clarity. The moon's big, it's going to clarify, it's going to bring illumination. It all makes sense, all very symbolic, which is probably why I understand this so much more deeply now, is because the associations that Spirit have taught me over many years, that all information's information. Okay, all information's information. Um, Prime time for things that need extra oomph or extra power, such as maybe finding a new job or healing of serious ailments. It all can be done at that time, at this time, um, on a full moon. Waning moon, which is where we are now. Yes, we are where we are now. It's the waning moon is from the moment after it's full to the moment it's new. So we're moving into a waning moon, um, and it's within Taurus. Okay, so Taurian traits. I'm a Taurus. Taurian traits are um, like I love the outdoors. I like things are natural, but I like to celebrate life. I love food. I like comfort, but actually, I'm really comfortable sleeping under a tree, which is quite interesting. But I do like comfort too. So, during a waning moon in Taurus, you might feel a little bit under the weather, um, which is funny. I woke up feeling my sinuses were kind of quite alive when I woke up this morning. Um, so waning moon, okay, from the moment after full to the moment it's new. Now this is about doing work to kind of banish, dropping away. Okay, so the key words are lessen, removing obstacles, banishing kind of heavy energies, maybe things that have been very negative within your life. You're able to kind of work towards removing them, neutralizing, removing harm. Decrease is the operative word here, as the moon's light is decreasing. Okay, um, the 3 days after a new moon are the most powerful times to work spells for growth and beginnings. Okay, so we've got new moon in there, so it's a really powerful time for 3 days, around those 3 days, to work for growth, new beginnings, um, things that you want to manifest towards the fullest and the full moon. Okay, um, the days just before the full moon are powerful times for fruition and completion. So we talked about that, legalities, kind of bringing things to a closure. Um, the black or the dark moon is the most auspicious time for banishing. So wanting to banish and neutralize. It goes dark. So it's banishing, neutralizing, and we're moving towards All's Hallowed Eve, which is the darkest part of the year, ideal time for kind of cleansing and neutralizing and banishing. Okay, attributes are wisdom, psychic ability, looking into, um, looking into the darkness, looking into the unseen. Okay, scrying, reversing circumstances. Okay, so it's kind of a reversal of energy, um, falling away. Okay, banishing, releasing the old, removing unwanted negative energies. I'm kind of really reinforcing, working with illness or negativity. Okay, that's the dark moon. Um, if anyone has experienced kind of, kind of an attack, an emotional attack, or even a psychic attack, um, this is a time to kind of work with on a dark moon to just allow that stuff to just drop away. It's also a time for bringing justice. Okay, you can work with it on a dark moon. You're bringing and going into the grit, and into the kind of darker aspects of things, and then you kind of work back towards a full moon. You're looking for that to be completed. It's a very potent time for prophecy work. It's time, where you could pick up your cards, and it would be very, very powerful time, because you're kind of looking underneath. The veil has become thin. And then I want to reinforce again, the new moon, new ventures, new beginnings, and such. I really hope all of that has given you something to kind of just feel for. I will put a link within the video to the blog, so you can go back over it and you can just kind of grab some of those parts section by section, and you can reread it. And I kind of put links in to the other important videos as well. But I thought that was a wonderful question. It's one that has made me think, and also kind of, in a way, really been really beneficial for me to kind of grasp where I am with it, and understanding that it's years of working with the associations, and the energy and the flow, and also really understanding that all information is information, that symbolic information is very, very powerful, that all information is information, and kind of dropping into and understanding those natural ebbs and flows. And if we attune ourselves to them, they are very powerful gateways. So I'm going to leave all of that with you. Do please leave some comments, leave some feedback, leave any more questions. You'll find as we go forwards, the videos will be shorter again as we move the other side of All's Hallowed Eve, and this series of kind of the magical aspects start to kind of move away as we start to drop into a normal time, so to speak. Is it ever normal? Speak to you all soon. Take care, guys. A real heartfelt pleasure.